Dr. Ortiz, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
It's good to have you here. I wanted to start off with giving you a chance to talk a little about why you believe that New Mexico State University would be a good fit for you.
Well, there are a number of reasons that I really think New Mexico State and I would make a good match. And mostly it's because my entire higher education career I've been at universities that have a mission of serving the community. I grew up in New Mexico, and I see New Mexico State's mission as much broader than that because it's actually serving the state and is charged with serving the state. So that I never thought I would have an opportunity to return to New Mexico and be in a position where I would be able to influence what happens across the state and hopefully do things that would have a positive impact on the state. I've been Throughout my academic career, I've gone through the faculty ranks, etc., so I understand how an institution works, and I think the two of those together would make me a pretty good match for New Mexico State.
Okay. Tell me what you view as the major challenges for NMSU.
The challenges for NMSU clearly are similar to the challenges faced by many institutions, and that is the resource end of things. As you look forward here in the governor's proposed budget, or the budget that's being reviewed now, there's a reduction in funds that would affect the research stations, it would affect the extension program, and certainly would affect the university overall. So that resources become a critical piece of what every university is facing in the country, unless you're from Texas or South Dakota. But anyway, I think that's the largest challenge faced. And another thing is the direction that the institution is going in terms of the conflict between being a Research One institution and being a land-grant institution, and how those blend. I think there's some work that could be done there that would make that a much more efficient process.
Tell me about your experience in helping to potentially meet those challenges that you've identified.
Well, when I started my academic career in North Carolina, the chancellor there gave us the charge of getting off the mountain. I was a faculty member at Appalachian State University, which is a small community, and he said that you couldn't accomplish the things that needed to be accomplished by being on the mountain. And so we would planned to be away from the campus. We had teaching centers located across the state, and we had kind of an extension program of our own, which was to get the students into the community. So that's where I started my career. Every institution since then has fostered that same kind of feeling. When I was at Fresno State, as an example, their mission is to be a premier interactive university in the country. And by being a premier interactive university, everything they do at Fresno State has a community attachment. It's in some way or another working within the community to better what's happening in the community in the region. And my current campus, it's also been the same practice, and that is to get off the campus and get into the community. All of those things have really encouraged me about coming to a land-grant institution, and New Mexico State in particular, because as I said, it is home for number one reason, and number two, I think because of the mission that it has as a land-grant is something that really appeals to me.
Tell me, we've talked about some of the challenges for the university. Tell me about your thoughts on where you think New Mexico State really excels.
Well, New Mexico State delivers some outstanding research. I mean, they're involved in some research that is at the cutting edge in a number of different areas, and I believe that this is one thing that we can really hang our hat on as an institution. The diversity of the population that is served by New Mexico State is another thing. Because New Mexico State is an Hispanic serving institution and is the only Hispanic serving institution, it's the land-grant institution, it already has a unique position. I think filling the needs of the state and meeting the needs of being a Hispanic serving institution, along with incorporating the mission of the institution and the divergent research that's going on, and including the students that are coming to the campus and get them involved in that kind of research, I think is really something that could have a significant impact, not only on New Mexico, but globally.
Okay. Public broadcasting plays a really unusual role here because in addition to serving the community and offering educational opportunities for students, this is the only television station in southern New Mexico, and we also operate the only radio stations that have a news and public affairs focus as a big part of the mission. Tell me how you see public broadcasting as part of the university's overall mission.
Well, clearly public broadcasting and the programming that's provided are tremendous assets to the university. The educational content of programs is extraordinary, and that's something that we could certainly build on and should build on in terms of our interaction at the university and in the community broadly. We should take advantage of those things. When I was at the University of Southern Colorado, now Colorado State University Pueblo, we also had the public television station on our campus. And we were engaged in a number of different things that brought the community into the campus, one of which was what we call the Dollars for Scholars Telethon, which we conducted on the Cinco de Mayo, and we raised scholarship dollars for the university. And that was really an extraordinary event because of the participation of the community and the surrounding community. When we first started doing it, most of the contributions came from industry and from companies around the university, but when I left after several years of doing it, the majority of the contributions came from individuals. So that it really kind of flipped over and really did what we intended it to do.
Okay. You've identified as one of the challenges for New Mexico State, and certainly for universities all over the country, especially during the recession, fiscal matters. And as a result, university presidents are increasingly called on to do private fundraising. I want to give you a chance to talk about, as that being part of the role of a president at a university, how you make sure that donors don't have an undue influence on the institution.
Well, that's really a very good question. I believe that the donors themselves and what happens within the context of advancement or in the fundraising arm of the university have to have policies in place that would keep that from happening. It's a challenge. I know that figuratively you try to make sure that donors come in with the intentions of supporting what you do at the university, not the university necessarily making what they do more efficient or financially positive for them. It's more their attempt to provide the support to the institution that's trying to move forward. And I think the president and the individuals that are engaged in the active fundraising for the campus need to make that clear to donors. I know there have been some recent challenges to the universities where large corporations have provided funding, and there's challenges about who owns the results of research that have been sponsored by corporations. All of those things need to be set forth in policy so that you don't have those conflicts when you accept resources from a donor.
Okay. Another issue all around the country deals with who is teaching at the university and the position that they hold. And as you know, there are fewer tenure track positions. This has really been a trend for quite a long time now, and many people worry about the effect of that on academic freedom. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, the challenge that we face at the university, and it goes back to what you mentioned about the resource issues, is that you have students that you have to educate. You have people that are quite qualified to teach these individuals and go through a process to be named as faculty on the campus, whether they be part-time or whether they be full-time temporary faculty. So that I think there is a screening process that does take place. It's the challenge that comes forward really has to do with how they interact with the tenure track faculty, because in that group you have specific guidelines about academic freedom and what takes place that ensures that is a solid foundation. And I think that the relationship between the faculty that are coming teaching part-time or are not in the tenure track arena need to make sure that that line of communication is open and that the support is there for both sides of that equation. That is, those that are on campus as full-time tenure track faculty as well as those that are part-time.
Okay. You've already identified the importance at New Mexico State of diversity. We have a very diverse campus, a diverse community. I wanted to give you a chance to talk about how you ensure that a campus is a welcoming place for everybody.
In my past experience, it's been a process of acclimation to the campus, and it's done primarily through, we have 4 cultural centers on the campus. And this is the introduction of our students that come from a different background, be they Native American or be they African American, Latin American, whatever it might be. Latino, excuse me. If they come to the campus, we have a gateway for them where they can become aware of the opportunities that are available on the campus, as well as meet people that they're familiar with and comfortable with. And so that's the gateway to the campus. I would anticipate a similar kind of a structure here on the campus that would allow students to be integrated into the campus at a pace and in a familiar and comfortable environment with people that they're comfortable with. Now, the outcome of this, I need to point out, is that we have cultural literacy as the outcome of having these different centers, and you can see that happen every year when we have the affinity commencement celebrations, and you have people that will attend all 4 of the celebrations, because that's just celebrating with each other, and it's part of what happens on the campus, and something I would anticipate would be a goal that we would have.
Okay. We've addressed fiscal matters to some degree. I wanted to talk about one specific one. With cuts in state funding, university employees have seen a reduction in take-home pay because of a requirement to have increased contributions for retirement. And the state budget in New Mexico, as you know, is expected to be under enormous pressure for some years to come. As president, if you were chosen, would you be willing to take local action to ensure competitive compensation packages when the state falls short?
Well, that really is a difficult question, given that you have very limited sources of revenue into the university. You have the state appropriation, and then you have student tuition, and that generally is your 2 sources of revenue. So that with the state, as an example, trying to keep the tuition at a level where students are not suffering because of increases, you have the state allocation with which to deal. I think what you can do, however, is that you can look at what you're doing internally and identify the things that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing or don't need to be doing, and reallocate resources internally to try to address some of those issues. Currently, as you may or may not know, California's employees in both the University of California and California State University system all are taking a 10% reduction in their salary by taking 2 furlough days a month. So that this is a challenge that we continue to face, and trying to come up with means to address these in an equitable manner is a real challenge for the university.
Absolutely. Well, the situation in this area is a particularly big one because, as you know, New Mexico State is the area's largest employer, so it has an effect on the entire community. NMSU is working and has been working for some time to increase the number of partnerships aimed at economic development. I want to get a sense of your experience in working with local governments, school districts, other partners to work on issues related to economic development.
Well, that's a matter of survival. For example, I was talking earlier with one of the alumni from New Mexico State. We do things in our community to try to offset the challenges that you mentioned, one of which is that we have an agreement with the Kellogg Foundation to maintain the Kellogg Arabian Horse Center, which is on our campus. And we farm 1,100 acres around the Chino prison in order to generate or to provide food for the horses. We grow our alfalfa there. In addition, we have a research park where we've just announced that the wing of Southern California Edison that deals with alternative energy production is going to be housed on our campus. And this is a partnership that we're forming that will allow our engineering and our environmental sciences and our regenerative studies people to work in conjunction with Southern California Edison, while Southern California Edison is contributing to the academic core of the institution. This is in addition to the American Red Cross that has been on our campus for 5 years with the largest blood processing unit in the country. And they continue to provide revenue to our academic core while allowing our faculty and students to participate in blood research on their campus. We also have the Center for Technology Transfer and Innovation, which is an incubator where we house a NASA Commercialization Center and others trying to get the entrepreneurship involvement from the graduates on our campus as well as in the community. So that there are a lot of partnerships that we're engaged in, and we attempt to do everything we can to maximize the resources that are available through those partnerships. A recent example is that we leased a piece of property to the American Railroad Association so that they could run a railroad track from the ports of LA across part of our farm. And in doing so, we acquired funds which allowed us to relocate the ornamental horticulture unit and create a space for a new College of Business building, as well as providing tractors and other equipment for the farm, so that you leverage everything you can through these partnerships. It's a matter of survival.
Lots going on there. Okay. Finally, wanted to give you an opportunity to address something that all of the candidates have, and that is a hardship that you've had in career or life, and what you've taken away from that.
My life has truly been the result of people expecting things from me that I couldn't, or I didn't think I could deliver. So that an example is I started in a 3-room school when I started my education. I went to high school, and when I went to high school, I was put in the general college track because I came from the other side of the tracks, so to speak, or literally. And it was one of my math professors, or my math teacher actually, that said, "You're in the wrong track. You need to be in the college track." And so his switching me transformed my life. I wouldn't be sitting across the table from you if it weren't for that. So that I think that the challenges have always been, to me, the expectations that people had of my abilities and my own expectations, and how mentors have always pulled me through the downside of people thinking that, oh, he comes from there, oh, he's Latino, or he's this, he's that, and trying to predict what I was capable of doing, while other people were saying, oh, you can do much more than that. So I think that challenge is the one that I would point out, and that's the one that I've overcome, and that's one that I'm hoping will be of value in sitting in the presidency at New Mexico State if that should happen.
Okay. Dr. Ortiz, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
And thank you very much.